you have to particularize your problem. Why can't men find women to date? That's not your problem. Your problem is why you can't find the woman you want. Yeah. And you have to assume that's your problem, because otherwise you have to assume that it's the women's problem. And really? They're all wrong and you're right. Really? Lucky you. Maybe you are. You're an undiscovered gem of some sort.
Did you see the recent article? I think a professor at NYU named Scott Galloway, I believe his name was, and he talked about how that there is a mating crisis going on in the Western world. And one of the reasons why he brought it up was that, you know, in the typical college and university, 60% of them is female, 40% of it is male. And a lot of the college-age females or college graduates who are females, they only want partners who are also college graduates. So have you seen that article? And then what are your thoughts about a mating crisis?
Well, what seems to be happening is that if male enrollment falls below a certain percentage, and it looks like it's something like 40%, then the females start not going too. And that's not surprising. I mean, really? Of course. How many people meet their prospective mates in university or college? Like, well, pretty much everyone who goes that route. So it's not surprising that that would happen with young people. And the fact that male enrollment is declining is, well, it's a shocking indictment of the education system in general. And the failure of boys all the way through the education system is the same thing, the increasing failure of boys. So, you know, I thought that part of it might be that girls will play boys' games, but boys won't play girls' games. So there's a bit of that going on with boys themselves, I think. But more of it is... What do you mean by that,
Dr. Peterson?
Well, if a girl plays boys' games, she's admired by the girls and the boys. But if a boy plays girl games, well, he's not necessarily admired by the girls or the boys, right?
That's true.
Now, I don't mean that boys shouldn't play with girls or something stupid like that. Yeah. That isn't what I mean. I'm trying to figure out this enrollment issue and what's going on, you know, and obviously girls, for whatever reason, are being encouraged to value their education in a way that boys aren't, you know. And that's partly marketing and messaging as well, because girls are taught fairly consistently now that they should be their best self, and, you know, the world needs more female power and so on and so forth. And that's probably true. But the underlying message there is, well, instead of boy power and man power, not along with, but instead of.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if women ran the world, there'd be no wars. It's like, yeah, right. Yeah, right. You really think that? It's like, how dim can you possibly be to believe that? You know, it's...
So something else I've been hearing, Dr. Peterson, a lot of young men have been sharing with me, and I'm not sure how much you've heard of it or experienced it. They've been sharing that, you know, that they feel as though the average woman has no desire for the average male, and that because of things like social media, online dating, things along those lines, as well as just some of the female empowerment, where a lot of women have this is what they say, an elevated sense of self, that now they feel like they're above a lot of these average males, which also contributes to a disparity between young adults being able to connect and form meaningful relationships.
Yeah, well, women are more picky in their mate choices than men, especially sexually. That's the case in every culture. It's not surprising, because women have more at stake sexually than men do, you know, per episode, because men don't get pregnant, obviously. And so that female pickiness is, that's the case. That's definitely true. Whether it's worse now or not, I doubt if it is. I would say to young men who are irritated at women is, if you're irritated at women, you know, as a class of creature, there's something wrong with you, because they're right. You're wrong. They're right to not pick you. If they're not picking you, it's because they're right.
Wow.
Now, that might I know that's a terrible thing to say, and I know perfectly well, it wasn't like I was particularly successful with girls when I was young. You know, so I know what that rejection is like. I know what that fear is like. I don't know it as well as some men know it, because I wasn't rejected outright. But what you have to understand is that, what do you expect from women? If you got pregnant because you had sex, you'd be pretty damn choosy too. So clue in a bit. And then, well, don't they find you attractive? Well, maybe you're not. Like, have you paid attention to how you dress? Do you have a plan? Are you as educated as you could be? Are you a liar? Are you a rabid pornography user? Because maybe that's undermining your motivation to seek out a woman and grow yourself up. It's like, if you're rejected constantly and you're out there really trying, because that's another thing to ask yourself is, well, how many women have you actually asked out? And are you so sure that you're not picking women who will certainly reject you because you're trying to bat out of your league? Because you might be. So, and I'm speaking about this as a clinician too, because I had plenty of men in my practice who were, radically unsuccessful with women. I had one man in particular. He was so afraid of women, he couldn't use the phone. He was too afraid of everyone to use the phone. And he had been bullied like mad, and he had his problems. So I know what this is like, but pornography is a big problem. It's a big problem. It's a real curse, that pornography, in my opinion, because it's an easy out. And so we don't know what the consequences of that are. We're starting to understand some of them. But if you were better, you'd be more successful with women. Yeah. So you have to have that in your mind. And you cannot be angry at women. It's stupid. Women, it's like women being angry at men. It's a sign of psychological trouble, that.
So you feel as though Dr. Peterson is that, for the men who are complaining about the standards of women today and it being elevated, that it's not so much a focus of pointing the finger at them not choosing them, but more so looking in the mirror and asking themselves what can they do to improve themselves to be so desirable, instead of focusing simply in on the inability of what you're going through today.
Be a little stronger, dress a little better, speak a little more clearly, aim a little higher, and practice that, and that'll work. Now, I know that that's more difficult for some people than others, because some people bear incredibly difficult developmental burdens, and I'm not saying that this is easy, but I'm saying that it's a useful reaction. Like, what else are you going to do? What else are you going to do? What else are you going to do? Complain about women? I've seen that in men. I went out with a group of men who were having trouble with their wives, and they'd gone off to this couples retreat, and it was mostly rubbish, although they were trying